Hi guys, so today I am going to talk about the books that I've read recently, and I have read quite a few books, so we probably should just get started with it. So the first book I read, and I don't have it with me here, is Atala, René, written by Chateaubriand. So it deals with America and Native American people and Christianism. So Chateaubriand was a very Christian French writer who believed that Christianism was basically the thing that was going to help change and save the world. Wrote a lot about it, which is really interesting, but when it meets a pagan civilization that had the history that the Native American people had, it sort of makes us feel uncomfortable. At least it made me feel slightly uncomfortable, but it's something we have to understand when we read a book. It's important to put it into a context, political and a historical and even like a geographical context. And the parts that were about God and faith were absolutely beautiful, but the whole story didn't really make it for me. I read this one, Yun Pot 2 in Chinese. I don't know how it's called in English. I will have to search for it. I picked up this book out of random completely because I was like, I haven't read that much Chinese literature, so let's give it a try. I didn't really like the book. I mean, it was very surprising that this book was written by a woman because it is very sexist in some ways. I don't know if it was really sexist or if it was just a description or kind of like the thoughts of what a lot of men could think, you know, like how things were / are in Chinese / everywhere's society. But it was sometimes quite disturbing to read. It's basically the story of a couple that looks perfect from the outside, and suddenly one night everything explodes. Basically, people who are triggered by rape and sexual assault or violence should definitely not read that book. It was an interesting read. I did not really enjoy it, but it was very short, so not much of a big deal. I also read A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. So many people are going to hate me for that. I don't really like Virginia Woolf's work. I have absolutely nothing against Virginia Woolf. I quite like her. I think I can relate to a lot of things. She said important things on a diversity of topics. I know she's a great writer and I know her work is of value, but I just don't feel it, if that makes any sense. I don't like her writing style. Basically, that's just it, really. I have nothing against the story she's telling. I like what she's interested in and what she wants us to understand. I like the stream of consciousness. I like a lot of things about her work. I just don't like how she writes about it. Maybe I need to get more used to it, but it's not my first book and it's not my first disappointment, so I don't know. It seems like British literature doesn't make it for me. I read 2 books by Zola. I used to think I didn't like Zola. I was like, I'm never gonna read anything by him. It's just not my cup of tea. And then I met Mr. Herbst and he really liked him. So I was like, okay, maybe I should try. And then simultaneously at school, at uni, I had to read one of his books and I was like, oh my god, that's actually wonderful. So I read La Bête humaine and Au bonheur des dames. It's really interesting to see how you can write, you know, in the 19th century and still be relevant to today's world. So in this book, Zola writes about the struggles of little merchants and shop owners when they are faced with the explosion of big shops and basically malls, kind of. And it's all about the story of a young lady who is poor and needs to work, and despite her uncle and some of her friends being little shop owners and seeing their lives quite threatened by this new big shop that opened in the same street, she enters the shop, starts working there and meets people. It was not my favorite. My favorite was this one. So it's about someone who drives trains and who is obsessed with killing women. He's trying really hard to control himself, and one day he meets a woman who is already married and who has committed murder herself, and he knows that about her, and for some reason it just helps him controlling himself, and he doesn't want to kill her, and he starts having an affair with her. But things start to get complicated with time, and that's this story. Then I read Bonjour, Tristesse by Françoise Sagan. So she is a French writer who is very famous, and I have been wanting to read that book for a long time. What originally made me want to read that book is the fact that she wrote it when she was really young, I think about 19, and it was like a success immediately. I quite like this book, even though it's definitely not the kind of books I read most of the time, not my cup of tea. It's about a young lady who lives with her father and who goes on holidays with her father and his new girlfriend, but another woman arrives and disturbs the whole thing, and the ending is so surprising. Definitely not what you expect, definitely not the kind of ending you would think of. The feelings you get reading that are very conflicted. It's definitely interesting, and it's very short, so I would really recommend reading it. Then I read Karenina, written by Tolstoy. I don't know, do I really need to explain the story? I don't think so. As much as I like the book for different reasons, I didn't like the main character. I didn't like Karenina. But I like the style. It was beautifully written. I like the depictions of Russia, both the urban and the very countryside-ish one. I like the other characters. It's not only about her and her love affair. It deals with a lot of different topics. Motherhood is a very important topic. I felt like it was sort of interesting the way it was written about in that book. There's a lot you can say, in my opinion. Just love, independence, definitely. And Tolstoy writes about people in such an incredible way. Like, it's so real, not in the same way as Zola. It's just like, it's so real, like it's everything seems plausible, like there's nothing that's too much or exaggerated. And I also read this one that I thought I would not include in this video because I did not finish it because I didn't like it at all. So it's written by a Japanese writer who is called Murakami Ryu, or Ryu Murakami, and it's called Kagiri na koto ume ni chikai boru. And that's about, I don't know how it's translated in English, probably almost transparent blue or something like that. And I picked up this book because it was about something blue. And I read obviously the summary, and it's all about sex, drugs, violence and stuff like that, which is very normal for this writer. He always writes about that kind of stuff, it seems. I have two other books by him. The first one I liked, the second one I was like, and this one was like, yeah, really not. It's extremely violent and disturbing, like to the point I was reading it and I felt even a bit nauseous, and I was like, what's the point of reading that? It's just about violence. It's violence for the sake of violence. Also, to me it seemed it was. I don't like violence. I don't like seeing women treated like shit. I don't like seeing men portrayed as disgusting creatures who cannot control themselves. So if any one of you has read that book, let me know what you thought about it. I just didn't like it, and I'm not going to pick it up and finish it. Yeah, so that's it. I'm going to keep on reading, and I will see you later with a few more books. Let me know what you've been reading. Let me know if you have any recommendations. As always, I'm always interested in your recommendations. I hope you enjoy watching this video, guys, and I will see you later. Bye!